at the beginning of anything else. If you look at my previous economy video, it explains more how it is. So to bring it all back and put it on a pretty package, small package, and try to make it simpler, easier to understand. Everything is not as easy or simple to understand. Let's be frank and clear about that. This is Monarchy. Today we're going to be talking about kind of economy we all have put together. So I'll bring up 5. We have city counties. We have states, countries, overseas, worldwide economy. That's the whole infrastructure, the networking, how the economy works. There is different components in the economy mindset type of thing, especially how we are in this new economy functions because of how it is today, on like how the government is functioning now and how the presidency, how it is now. And that all ties up into gaming. It ties up how we pick up food, services, and entertainment, and everything else that you could think of. That's pretty much all bundles up and connected, making this or that. As you could see behind me, there is like a some type of system, and how we could say elevator that is going up and it's going down. So there's like a certain pause in the middle of it, so it could sway up or down. That's how the economy works, because we are all into a system and a certain role that follows who's in charge and who is manipulating certain gears or mechanics into that structure base. So in game is the same mentality. There's different structures, different type of bases that you need to focus in a certain amount of time. And speaking of time, there's different formats, different policies on to think of the TOS. There's different laws, different rules that factors and implement to or in order to play a certain game. So it's pretty much you're taking a chance of how things work. So like I have did my homework, I have did my research on how the economy works and how the GDP and tariffs are involved. Whether people are abusing the system or taking advantage into that mechanical system, or you're playing it as, you know, air quote, fair as possible. Because like any other player here, that you could see, or if you want to see players, there they are. There's every individual players out there works in a system and works in a certain mechanic and play style to increase or to improve their character. So that involves, managing your equipment, inventory, crafting, and auction house. So all these components here works and has a value to do X, Y, and Z. So as of now, we have been doing this global trade in the economy, that the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat, and the cars that you drive, or if you use any type of vehicle. It's a system that back then was a free trade. What do I mean by free trade? Free trade is that overseas and different countries are trading together with less of a risk. What do I mean by free trade? Free trade. So let's say the auction house, for an example. So what you see as into what you can purchase is that, let's say I have certain weapons for in a certain country, and another country has a certain other type of goods, armor. So the two places, the two countries benefit each other, and there is hardly no risk involved. So that's how both countries, from country A, country B, benefits in this equal exchange. You give me something, I give you something. So corporate companies are able to gain and improve over time. And how, think about it this way. If you pause the video here and watch the Spice and Wolf, how the trading system works there, okay? And they easily explain it, of a little child would understand how the economy works into that trading system. Because in the trading system, you need a buyer, seller, and a trader. And that's how the gaming, market works. You need a buyer, a seller, and a trader. So let's say I'm trading and buying certain goods or produce or a certain service that you're trying to gain or improve your character to level up to do X, Y, Z, like dungeons. And oops, let me get out of this area here. So you could do global dungeons and, you know, get certain materials, this or that, and as well as to oops, it's kind of frozen. Do sieges or the taxidermy, that type of bullshit. But this is just, you know, talking about Throne and Liberty itself, because you're able to do certain things in the daytime, but once it comes to night, there's a certain mechanic that is involved, PvP. But we could say people are into a disagreement. You're involved in a certain time, PvP. So war and conflict get passed on, because if you're into a guild, so think of it, guild is a country, so you own a certain property. But once you reach a certain number to be inside of a guild, and there are other players that is better than those type of players, you probably need to cut off those type of workers. So see how I switched it there? As you cut down workers or cut down players, because you don't have that type of momentum of to gain materials or gear, or you could pass down to other players to upgrade your equipment. So in that case, you're pretty much holding down the guild, or you're holding down other players into that server area. So with that being said, it kind of connects to real life situation. So think about, this could be, you know, whichever region that you are from. If you're in the western, eastern, south, north hemisphere, or in the equator, don't matter if you're from the overseas or not. We're playing a certain game in a certain system that kind of involves real life situation. Are we gonna go to war amongst each other? Let's say I'm just gonna pick random people. Okay, let's say this Aqua, and what is this one? Citrus. Are we gonna be in conflict because we don't agree to something? Or are you gonna trap me into something that you're the ways that I want to say the auction house, the ways of the auction house that you are putting into display of trying to take advantage of certain players. So are we going to be like in conflict or some type of disagreement that one side or the other side may not like? So it will come down to I want to say auction house, because let's say I'm just picking out people, okay? I'm not saying that they are doing it, just to give it a point of view. So like Citrus, for an example. Let's say Citrus owns the armor industry. So are they going to put me into a certain tax or a certain price that I'm paying for the armors. So once they gave it to me and I already gave them that in exchange of currency, when I'm going to sell a certain armor, I wouldn't be able to make a profit. So what I explained in the GDP, that in trading, from the country A and country B, that in a certain amount of time I wouldn't be able to trade or to do anything. So I have to put, I'm gonna tax them for each and every individual armor that they are selling me. I'm gonna make a profit out of what I'm buying from them. So like that, I could make a profit selling their equipment. And back in the day, it was an equal exchange, something fair. But now it involves, the trading industry or the world trading, the new world, that everything evolves into more taxes, higher taxes, tariffs that could come into war, of tariff war and other types of war if things doesn't, hit the fan properly. Because each and individual is the type of gear. Once you stop a certain gear and you're trying to go around and, disrupt how they are making profit and increasing their materials or whatever it may be, you're trying to kill off the country's growth and what type of service that they are increasing or improving on. So pretty much you're freezing their system and they're not able to increase or upgrade their materials. So kind of like this whole gaming mechanic, how we are developing a character, which is I developed this character, and how I want to improve my character by leveling up. By leveling up, you need a certain type of gear, or depending on what class that you are trying to perfect or improve on, or to help out your fellow members, you need to increase your equipment's power and capability. But once the gaming developer team decreasing your progress, how would you increase any further? And it's going to be a slow and steady pace most of the time, or they're going to cock block you into a submission. So once they cock block you, you have to do a certain obstacle in a certain different way to do X, Y, and Z to increase your equipment in order you could do certain campaigns into the game. So that follows up into global dungeons, from dungeon star 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And trials, once it's updated. and a guild, I want to say, progresses. But how can you progress even further if you don't have a certain system or a certain mechanic that everyone can follow through or do in their methods? Because since we are free what we can do into increasing our level, but the way to increase your character's level properly is by codex. Codex is what? The main story. As you're following through the main story missions, you need to do side quests. So exploration. So exploration equals that you have to do, or like it's intended to be, that you're exploring and you're doing contracts, you're doing, killing things off. Even though if it's not in the system that you need to go to, let's see, where is it? Here, contract manager, in order to progress or gain certain materials that you need to do X, Y, and Z. But this is kind of like a cock block. It's not giving you options like in PSO2 New Genesis. In a way, PSO2 New Genesis, that they kind of did right, but slowly decreasing of the value of doing certain things. They made it too easy to the point that everything's dull. What do I mean by that? They have a certain contract mechanic as well, but you could also do, go in the open area and fight monsters. You could increase your level that way. Sometimes it benefits you doing that. But there are other areas, let's say sector zones. Sector zones will be counting as I'd say global dungeons. So sector zones would be mostly like global dungeons that you could go in there and you could wreak havoc. Once you wreak havoc, destroy everything there, you are increasing your level, and as well as materials and in-game currency. However, in Throne of Liberty, you have limited. You're limited of doing global dungeons, because if I go here, see this kind of look like a skull, or whatever it is, but it's Abyss contract tokens. You're in the 4,000s range. Once that 40,000 range depletes and goes to 0, you cannot do global dungeons anymore. You pretty much, are empty, cannot gain it back. That's where Throne of Liberty fails. It should be encouraging players that plays PvE or co-op to do what you need to do in order to progress, but they don't want you to progress too fast, which is fine. That's what I could understand them putting like a time limit that once you run out of tokens and depletes, then you have to wait of the following day, or you refill it, the gauge back up. So that is another issue. You could increase the you cannot increase the gauge. You could only fill the gauge by doing contracts. And contracts there are certain areas that you can do contracts, but the problem with the contracts is that it doesn't give you enough of to do, you know, certain the open world dungeons. They give you a very little amount where you could progress, you know, least amount of time. But with that being said, that mechanic in this game needs work. But it kind of goes back into reality. There are certain things that you can do, like businesses and other companies trying to follow up and improve or able to sell their product. But once the product is unhinged, or I don't want to say unhinged, but on hold, they won't be able to make a profit. So what happens? There are certain things that has been cut off, like eggs, gasoline would be hard to contribute to among other players. So either the prices goes up on those type of produce or services, or they find a way to decrease the prices by using tariffs. So that's when the government and the presidency steps into play. However, that type of playing field is going to be toxic. So in the developer point of view, if they try to step in to fix every situation, that every single mechanic that's not working or it's not so-called best for the community, the gaming community, this game is gonna fail and it's not gonna work as it should be attended, or the idea that they are trying to attend. So you cannot, you know, choose favorites. You have to choose what is the best idea in that current time and how to improve that idea into the state of the game. So that's what certain gaming companies that are trying to do what they should be doing, but since everyone is in disagreement, what happens? They're gonna choose which is popular, PlayStation or Xbox or PC. PC, they're like, let them argue and bitch about and talk shit and see who would win out of that. You know, what is the best console, quote unquote. There is no best console, because the two individual console is a hack of shit. They're stealing and they are manipulating the gamers themselves. So why you think is certain companies trying to take advantage of we the people? Because all that it is, they're trying to get richer and richer, leave the middle class and lower class, so poor be poor. They're not uprising or fixing the economy to make it better. They're dividing into two parts: the richer area, the poorer area. So once they have that, the divide line saying, oh, I'm gonna put a border, this not way, this is the place that you won't cross, and this is how we're gonna keep you in line or in check, because you know there is immigrants, we could say, that's from the Whisper Island, or you know, certain players in a certain area trying to, you know, they saying taking advantage, or you know, this or that. Technically not really. What is going on is that the government, the presidency, are fixating a certain idea and putting that idea out there, so that illusion that they are creating is like they're gonna take all the, let's say they're gonna take all this land and they're gonna tell you, this point here from Stone Guard, this is the point that you need to focus on, so you could gain some type of currency, so that you could gain certain establishment and certain power. But in reality, it's not getting you nothing, because they have all of this and we have just that. That's not developing the economy or bringing up people into a balanced system. What it is separating from the rich and the poor, and feeding the rich, or feeding the people that whaling the game. Because the people that's whaling the game is pretty much, they're just gonna go and shop, getting where is it? Here you go. The premium stuff, where they could have the upper advantage and to have certain name, for, you know, quote unquote name or title, that free to play players won't have that advantage. You have an advantage to gain the equipment faster and the level up faster. Anything else is kind of like a fair game, because they're giving the people who's putting money something that's like, you get this or you get that if you pay up in front, and you can gain X, Y, and Z if you keep supporting us and our ideals this way. But free to play player, they're like, okay, you just get this That is it. You don't bitch about it. You don't say anything because we gave you somewhat that you could get. But see, there, I'm still sold out of this one. And just right now, I could gain these back. But once it's sold out, I have to wait. I don't know for how long. For this could recuperate and for I could gain it back so I could use my currency to get this or that. So I have to wait longer to upgrade or improve my equipment. And that is kind of, you know, why play a game that's holding me back. So in the real world, why should I invest or work in a certain company if they're gonna hold me back and hold the economy or the job system back? I'm not getting the fair amount of money that we probably agree on, or how I'm gonna get or raise children, or how I could, you know, sustain myself. Kind of the same situation here. How would I be in par with people or close enough people that's paying to win? Think about that. How would I get certain these items that are decking myself out a little bit, but I'm not able to deck myself out because I'm not paid to win, or, you know, paying to support the game. I'm supporting the game by playing the game and spending out certain in-game currency. It's the same idea of spending money and making it as an in-game currency in order to do X, Y, and Z. Same bullshit, but different response and algorithm that they want you to think, and they say this is the data process. Data is corrective numbers, but in those corrective numbers, people put in the illusion of saying this is how it is. You could take it how it is, or, you know, how usual some gamers will say, if you can't handle it, this is probably not the game for you. Get out of this game and find a different game. Probably MMO is not a perfect game for you. But they will say in a rude and a bad type of manner. They pretty much say, pack up your shit and go. You don't belong here in this game. If you keep on staying in this game, we're gonna make it harder for you. That's how the economy works. Sadly, but true. They give you some type of truth, certain data that they want you to follow, certain guidelines and rules that they displayed on. And that's the illusion. They put some truth but mask it with lies. So don't matter what country or what economy that you are in, they put this lie and they're feeding this lie once you were a toddler, because toddlers just born and are innocent till they know from right and wrong. And, you know, gaming industry and so on and so forth, that's how it's done. don't matter. And this comes into politics as well. I don't want to bring in politics. I don't want to bring in religion. I don't want to bring in those type of aspects of things into a game. But sometimes, you know, you have to go in reality and, you know, get out of that dreaming illusion and say, I need to wake up, because there are certain shit that's happening. People are not seeing or taking the value of that. There's hidden messages in each and everything from your plain existence. They're just putting a front. Certain gaming and gamers, YouTubers, streamers are saying a lot of shit lately to change up the idea of how you see certain things. But I'm telling you, as a person, maybe a friend, someone that you could probably trust. But with that being said, there are certain things that we're not taking value or accounting on what is real, what is a lie, what is truth and what is a lie. All this that we have here is dividing the people, the gamers, the players. So that's pretty much it. I would go even further, but it would make it more of religious type of view, and also things that shouldn't be involved in the game, because we're just here playing the game. We want to be, you know, stress free and just focus a little bit out of, you know, real world shit, because it's gonna involve politics. Everything involves in politics, everything involves in religion, if people don't believe it or not. So I am doing as best as I can to keep it frank and keep those things out of it, till if you guys want to hear a little bit about more of, you know, implementing a little bit more of politics or implementing more religion, you know, there's the comments down below. Let me know what you think. I try to do my best to give you guys certain peace of mind and also to make you think. I might have certain things that I might set it in the wrong way. That is fair. You could quote me on it. But I'm doing the best as I can to explain certain things, what things are coming in the future. And, you know, my previous videos that I've talked about the economy, if I talked about certain theories of how certain things works, you know, check it out. It's in PSO2 New Genesis game where I explain certain things. I might bring it to the side side projects, so you could look in there so you could understand where I'm going with certain things, certain topics. So talk to you guys later. Peace out.